The same spelling. Like, oh my. Okay, good afternoon, folks, and welcome to another edition of LiteratureDevil and myself. Just saying stuff online for whatever reason. You know, we say stuff and people listen. That's great. Thank you so much. And today we're doing a very, very short video, which will take us probably an hour to go through. 3 minutes, 23 seconds on Mr. Freddie Prinze Jr., and he is known as Canon Janus or Caleb Doom from Star Wars Rebels, I believe. I have not watched the show, but as soon as I heard him rant, as soon as I heard whatever he was talking about, it's like, oh, we gotta talk about that because it's so bad. Now, I do appreciate that he was honest and open and expressive and emotional. I think that's great to see actors or people on projects with Star Wars franchise, whatever they're doing, to be vocal and open about their feelings. I think that's always a great thing. But when you're rambling off the cuff and you say a lot of stuff which is incorrect, critics are going to be like,
about so many things.
oh, well, we're just going to jump on that like fresh meat. We're like, oh, thank you. 3 minutes. I can't wait. So Freddie, if you don't know Freddie Prinze Jr., I mentioned he's from Star Wars Rebels. But I've known him as James Vega from Mass Effect 3, as well as, of course, Mass Effect Paragon Lost, that oh-so-pleasant anime adaptation of, I don't know what Mass Effect story that was supposed to be, but good God, who they hired to write that. I don't even remember. I don't want to think about that, how strange that production was. So Freddie gets around. He knows things in the Star Wars world that we are not privy to, us plebeians who watch and listen and read and play these games. So, and apparently there's a big discrepancy between the video games and the shows, which he likes to rant on. And we'll find out exactly what that discrepancy is, even if we can't quite pinpoint which game he's talking about. And by game, there's like, I don't know, 2-3 dozen out there over the years. So
Star Wars is tons of tons and tons.
He did not narrow in on which one, so we're left to assume it's this or that. But we'll get there. You know, we'll try to interpret what he's saying. But boy, oh boy, what a great rant! I just bravo, Mr. Freddie. I'd like an encore maybe next week when we prove him wrong, or he cares to respond in another podcast. Like that'd be great, just to get Freddie back on.
Nice delicious nugget of gold he gave us.
Oh, it's a joy. It's fantastic. So let's get started, folks.
I did a Star Wars cartoon, so even I get hate from Star Wars fans when I'm like, look, dog, you're just mad the franchise isn't aging with you.
Right.
Okay, so what does it mean to have a franchise age with you? Now, that could mean like you have a certain comic book character that's taken a different direction because of a different writer or the creator died or whatever. Sure, okay. But we're talking about George Lucas selling his rights to another company or another group of people, and they have full creative control.
And they're doing a horrible, horrible job with it.
Yeah.
Ramming into the ground over and over again.
And it's not to say that George was perfect in his prequels, because obviously...
Oh, no. I think the prequels are better than the Disney sequels by a long shot, but the prequels are still pretty bad.
Yeah, so it made sense to give it to someone. He just didn't know who to give it to properly. And
yeah. I think George Lucas felt so beaten and defeated by the backlash he faced from the prequels that he decided that the greater good would be to hand it off to someone else, which it turned out to be a mistake because he sold it to the wrong people.
Right.
Obviously.
So it is a good idea to say, okay, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, maybe I'm not sharp enough, and all he had to do was talk to a fan and say, hey, dude, you know what? Don't do stupid crap. Don't write stupid crap. Get your editor, tell him that he's the boss whenever it's time to edit. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Before you spend millions and millions of bucks, hundreds of millions of bucks on CGI, whatever, just lock down that script, get it solid, get it figured out, then you go with it. Because that's pretty much what happens with the first 3 episodes. He had his editor, he had his wife at the time, and another person, and they edited the crap out of that movie. That's why they're so good. It's not because of the inherent ideas or the practical effects or the music, as great as all this was. It was the editor that saved Star Wars. So
yeah, George Lucas really had no idea what he was doing. he's like Gene Roddenberry. He's more of a concept guy. He can build on the big ideas, but when it comes to the actual story, not so much.
I have the same feeling. He's an idea guy. He's go. He's a producer. He's a writer director. He wants to do everything. It's his baby, but he still needs someone to hold him back. This is the same thing I say with Hideo Kojima, Hideki Anno of Neon Genesis Evangelion. The same thing. They have a great vision. They just need to focus. They need to take a step back, let someone clean up their mess, and then allow them to keep going. Like, they needed that. And there's so many times in all the games that I've seen, all the animes, the movies, it's like, oh, this is where George had too much reign to do what he wanted, and boom, it just did not work out. So obviously we know that our childhood of the original trilogy did not coincide with the prequels and did not coincide with the current trilogy. So yeah, we get it, Prince. We know what we're talking about here. Doesn't make any less of our argument valid or invalid. It's still bad crap.
Yeah, and that's a weird thing to say that he just said, that they're just mad that the franchise didn't age with you. They didn't just age without you or something like that. I don't think they're mad because it changed and you didn't accept it. It didn't change for the better. If it would have been one thing if the new trilogy was just plain bad, because we had something that was just plain bad before with the prequels. But this is even worse. This is the NPC nonsense kind of thing, because not only is it bad, it's also disrespectful to the original content. So in the movies, in the Disney movies, you see several instances where they're making fun of Star Wars itself, just satirizing some of its concepts. One of the worst offending lines being when Luke Skywalker comes out and calls a lightsaber a laser sword. That's highly disrespectful. I think they even did that in the Phantom Menace. I think little Anakin might have called it a laser sword. Don't do that. That's highly disrespectful. Even when George Lucas does it.
Well, the problem,
highly disrespectful.
Yeah, the problem also becomes that the fact that Disney said, "Oh yeah, all those books and comics and games and all those other things you guys enjoyed for the past 20 years, yeah, those never happened."
Non-canon.
So it's kind of like he's like insulting all the fans of people who have criticisms of the current trilogy, as well as saying, you know what, Disney's fine. Disney's okay. If you don't like Disney, it's your fault. It's like, what? No.
That ain't how it works. The first one was for fucking kids.
Right.
The second 3 were for different fucking kids.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay, first of all, don't use the word fucking and kids in the same sentence. Second of all, they were not for kids. They were for general audiences. There's a big difference between those two. For kids, if it was for kids, it would be something like it would be more cartoony. It's for general audiences because the Star Wars saga was forged out of George Lucas's appreciation for the pulps, not for kids, but for a general audience.
Well, even what he's saying doesn't make too much sense. He's like, okay, let's assume he's saying the truth. So the original was for kids. All right. So is the prequels, also for kids, but different kids. Like, okay, and what's your point? Is it like a sign of the times that, was it 10, 13 years later when we got the prequels, that the kids are somehow special? They're different? Like, they're still kids. It's still a movie for general audiences. Yeah, it has some decapitations and dismemberment, etc., things blowing up. It's a high adventure story. We get it. Mm-hmm. But what are you actually saying, Mr. Freddie Prinze? They're for different kids. It's like, and what does that mean? Please tell me.
Is it for kids or is it for everyone? Is another
yeah,
difference?
he's effectively saying it's general audiences, but the general audiences are different. It's like, okay, how? Just tell us how, Boot. That's all you got to do. What's the big argument you're trying to make here? Well, the kids are different. It's like, okay, can you illuminate on that point? Or are you just saying they're different kids because they're different?
How are they different?
Yeah, please. Are they more aggressive? Are they more mature? Are they more intelligent? Do they like science fiction more? Do they appreciate the genre? Can they go to the movie theaters without an accompaniment? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what?
I think the only thing I can infer is that they're older kids.
They're old, yeah. So what?
Yeah, a second and third movie of the original trilogy grew up with the kids, according to his own argument.
It's a very It's like saying A is no longer just A, it's A plus 1. You're like, okay, what's A plus 1? Can you tell us what you're talking about? It's like it's a very moot point that has no value, and I don't know why he's saying it.
And this one is for kids.
So they're all for kids. What's your point, man?
They're all for kids, but he's getting upset over it because they're for kids. Is he not? But is it for everyone or is it for kids? Like, no, Star Wars is not for
they're
kids.
special kids.
Yeah, special kids.
So I don't know what he's really saying here because he's not telling us.
Pissed off that Han Solo gave the fucking Millennium Falcon to a girl.
Okay, that's wrong because Han Solo died, and
he didn't give the ship to anybody.
Yeah, and
he died.
and then by default it should have gone to Chewie, but because Chewie is such an amazing character, and he can't communicate in English, the person who I guess tells people Chewie where to go is Rey. That's about as big as it gets. Plus, we see Chewie fly it most of the time in The Force Awakens, so as well as Last Jedi. So there's really no statement of ownership. It's still Han's, just Han's no longer there.
Yeah, I think this Rey is on the ship. I think this guy, Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah, I think is Freddie Prinze Jr. the guy who's speaking, right? I think so.
Yeah.
I think he wants that to happen because he wants to be on board with the Disney shield side. He says, "Oh, the Force is female." I know that was a Nike thing.
Yeah,
but it's the same general.
Yeah. When you say stuff that's false off the top of your head, you know exactly where you're speaking from, because even though we know what he said was incorrect, that's what's in his head. Oh, Rey owns the Millennium Falcon. How do we know that? Because it used to be owned by Han Solo. How did we get there? Oh, Han Solo gave it to her, even though that never happens in the movie.
So she just kind of takes it over.
So already we know his mentality, because
it's kind of a fitting metaphor, actually. The NPC Mary Sue takes over the symbol of the old Star Wars. I think it's a pretty fitting metaphor. She wasn't given anything; she just took it over.
By default, it's like, yeah, you're sitting in the chair now. It must be yours. Chewie's like, I've sat here for like 40 years. Who the hell are you?
Chewie's not a person. Chewie's not a person.
No, Chewie's a walking, talking rug.
I think he's property. I think he's Han's property. He comes with the ship.
He comes with the ship. Millennium Falcon means Chewie. He's owned by Rey.
Yeah, that's it. Because Luke Skywalker's Cinderella.
Luke Skywalker.
Cinderella.
Yeah, I'm trying to process that. What the hell?
Where was Luke Skywalker's like two ugly stepsisters?
I don't. What is he talking? Is it like his aunt and his uncle are his stepmom and dad?
What does that even mean? Luke Skywalker is Cinderella?
Like he wanted to go to Tashi Station, but he can never go. So his fairy godfather.
Did they have a prince or something? Was there a prince? Where's his glass slippers? I don't know.
I mean, this is an interesting analogy to see Cinderella in Luke Skywalker. Like you can compare the fairy godfather or fairy godmother to Obi-Wan.
It'd be really cool if like he put her shoes on Darth Vader and Darth Vader danced himself to death. That'd be kind of cool.
No, it's kind of a strange analogy where he's going with this, but I'm not seeing what he's getting at. So I wish, like, he's ranting, so we can't really make sense of this. It's so funny.
Cinderella
or Sleeping Beauty. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, or Sleeping Beauty. Okay.
Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty would probably be a better analogy. It's still a stretch, right?
So Luke is his force powers are asleep, and then
he's cursed to stay on a desert planet until some guy comes in.
I guess wakes him up.
That's getting a little weird because I think that the guy here in this scenario is Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, he is really stretching this far. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about?
There's no Maleficent either.
Yeah, where's all these other enemies? I don't know. It's talking horses and stuff. Here, let's Yeah, my brain just did not process that at all. So yeah, I don't think he's going to keep with the Disney. It's like Disney, make Disney analogy. Disney is good. Okay, good. Keep going. Check the list off.
Disney show.
He can talk to things that don't speak English and understands what they're fucking saying.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people do that in Star Wars. It's a pretty common trait to have.
Droids, Wookiees, aliens. Yeah. So what's your point, Freddie?
Well, if I remember correctly, Luke actually can't understand all the aliens. Remember that? I think that one alien who wants to kill him in a bar, he just yells at Luke in his language, and Luke is like, I don't know what he's saying, so he just kind of stays there. And the guy steps in and says, "Yeah, he doesn't like you. He wants to kill you or whatever." And he goes, "Oh, we're wanted in like 3 systems or something like that." So Luke can't understand everybody.
Yeah.
And he can understand the droids because they speak English. And I think even CPU has to translate R2D2 for him.
Yeah, he's a protocol droid. That's why one of the reasons why they got a protocol droid was to do all these things that Luke can't, or what Uncle Owen can't. So
yeah.
Same with Han. We sort of understand Han in that he kind of already knew the Wookiee language from his movie. So he speaks a language that is not English. Okay, cool. So it's not unheard of. This is not uncommon that you have people who aren't alien speak alien languages. Okay, not hard. it's pretty easy to grasp. Like you go to Europe, you don't know all the languages there, but there might be a guy who speaks English and speaks French as well. It's amazing. It's just like wow.
Yeah. Then they made a Lucy skit. I love Lucy skit out of that. And I think if I remember correctly, they actually had let's see, languages. Yeah, Rey spoke a lot of languages. She spoke a lot of alien languages, as far as we knew. And she's Rey, so even if she couldn't understand them, all she had to do is headbutt them, and she'd instantly know the language.
Yeah. So Wookiee, she can speak Droid. She can speak. I don't know what else, but those are the 2 big ones. That
yeah, she can understand BB-8 like right off the bat. She doesn't need her own 3CPO. She just understands BB-8. She knows how to speak droid.
Right, and let's also understand that the languages that are used in Star Wars are not very intelligent. They're not actual languages. They're just gibberish. So, and you see that not only in the Star Wars movies, but also the games and some of the other drama stories out there. That's just like George never bothered. They never bothered to make, or whatever other writers never bothered to do it for whatever reason. I don't know. It always bothered me when I was playing KOTOR. It's the one thing that stands out in the dialogue or the diction or any of the other elements where there's text on the screen. It's like, why didn't they just invent a language? Who cares?
I think in KOTOR they had like a couple of words and that's it, and they just use those words over and over again to signify different things.
It's annoying. It's like if you're going to name something the Illithids or whatever weird name, give them similar sounding words. It's all you have to do. Replace the vowels with other vowels. Come on.
And I think we used to make fun of the Twi'lek language because it was always some sort of like Ukashakapaka, and that was the main word they used.
Yeah, even when you play Old Republic, if we ever do, that's the same. It's like all gibberish. It's like, okay, we get it. We're speaking to an alien.
He gets a fairy godfather instead of a fairy godmother who teaches him how to be the best Jedi in the world in no time fucking flat.
Okay, first off...
That is completely wrong.
That is very wrong. Obi-Wan...
What movie were you watching? The only movie that would pertain to is The Last Jedi.
Oh, yeah. First, with Luke, okay, he was given Obi-Wan. He trained him a bit with lightsabers. Obi-Wan dies, and that's it. That's all Obi-Wan was. Then the only force power Luke uses during the first entire movie is he uses the force to help guide the missile system so he can shoot the Death Star. And not only that, he actually had already experience doing just that thing, where he said that they used to bullseye womp rats, which were about the size of that hole in the Death Star. So he had experience doing that thing already, and he just supplemented it with the force power that just guided him in there. Rey was dominating minds and out force pulling other people. And the ability that he used was pretty much a ghost assist from Obi-Wan who was training him while he was, or helping him while he was doing it. So it's kind of like someone over your shoulder say, this is how you do it, buddy. So it's not like he just pulled it out of the ether and suddenly he can guide missiles. Plus, it's still a missile. It's still a mechanical device. It's not like this thing is like doing 90-degree turns with the Force. He's feeling when to fire, and the thing shoots. The targeting computer could have worked. It just didn't because the guy didn't know when to fire, the previous fellow. But the Force helped him out, and Obi-Wan was there to guide him. So
basically, it just supplemented his instincts. It just enhanced them a little
essentially,
bit.
What he was already feeling when to fire, and he thought about it, he calmed down, and he focused. And that was it. He could have focused without the Force, but the Force helped him out. It's a Force assist. It's like OnStar. Just press that button, and you get Obi-Wan in your ears. Oh, this is what you should be doing. Okay.
And no time at all.
And then there's the second movie where he actually trains with
Yoda for a long time.
For at least 2 weeks. If you want to be generous, at least 2 weeks, and we can go further to 6 months, depending on the time between movies, as well as the time between getting from Dagobah to wherever he was going. So you could argue that point as well. Lots of time has passed. With Rey from the first movie to the second, 1 day, maybe 1 day.
Luke's training consisted of, all right, sit down on this rock, and then Rey was cracking the earth in two. Yeah. And that's after she Rey dominated people's minds and outforce pulled Kylo Ren and beat him in a lightsaber duel.
Yeah, the second lesson Luke gave her was like, Jedi suck. And the third lesson was, there was no lesson. It was just, he just forgot about it.
There is no spoon.
Yeah, that was her entire training. So apologies if we don't accept Rey as a believable character, but Luke is.
And everybody, I know more about the Force than most people because Dave Filoni taught me and George Lucas taught him. And all these video games have fucked people up on what the Force is.
Okay, well, hey, Prince.
All these
which video games? There's quite a lot. And the video games I played, aside from the only one that I could argue really played around with the Force that was a bit too much was The Force Unleashed. And
oh, yeah. It was fun. It's a really fun game.
Yeah.
But it's way over the top.
Yeah, so I would imagine they use the Force as just a scapegoat to say, okay, we want our character to double jump, or we want our character to. The most famous one I know is you have to pull the Star Destroyer and align it.
You pull the Star Destroyer out of orbit or something.
Yeah, and then you have to align it so it falls properly. So you can't just pull it straight down. You have to actually angle it while there's TIE fighters coming. It's a crazy scene. If you ever see that scene. So yeah, you can make the argument that Starkiller is overpowered, and he invented some powers. I think it's like a homing missile. It's called Sith Seeker. I can't remember what it does, but it's force. But it's a combination of powers like Force Push and Force Lightning, and so you see things that are new, but they're not unheard of. It's okay, he was experimenting with this or that.
More like combining things.
Yeah.
But even Starkiller had to train. He trained since he was a kid.
Yeah, plus he's well, if you play the other game, I think he's a clone of the original Starkiller. And it's okay, so he's genetically engineered to be a Force user. It's oh, thank you. That makes some goddamn sense. Plus, Darth Vader is his teacher, so he might know a thing or two about the Force. So, great. Yeah, a little bit of continuity problems with that game, but every other game I can think of, like Battlefront, TIE Fighter, Jedi Knight, Rogue Squadron, the original, very almost no exaggeration of the Force, and including these are all things which are no longer canon. So that's not our fault. If anything, it's people getting angry at Disney for removing canon. And not giving us proper. So if that's the point, not giving us proper explanation how Rey is so strong. And it could have been as simple as one line of dialogue. Your parents were Jedi. Your parents were Sith. Your parents were a Jedi and a Sith. Your parents were Force sensitive and something happened and blah, blah, blah. Anything, just something. It's oh, thank you. That is a 1 in a million chance of this, but it happened. Okay. Something simple. That would have worked, but we never got it.
Luke's skill doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses.
Right.
The Emperor.
I think he's making the argument here that the Force dictates who wins and who loses.
If that's the case,
there's no free will in Star Wars.
Yeah, there's no free will.
Force.
The Force is an evil, capricious genius that just does whatever it wants every movie, and nothing makes sense.
The Force is the puppet master that controls both sides.
There's training. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The Force is gonna do whatever it wants.
It just works. It's like the Purge. It just works. Yeah. It just works. Don't ask how it works. It just does.
It's just the worst Deus Ex Machina argument I've ever seen. It's like, oh yeah.
If this is your platform, it's not a very good platform to argue from.
One of the worst storytelling devices. Yeah, that's just how it goes. That's just God for you.
Owned. Take that, stupid fanboys. Deus Ex Machina.
It's like, what? Like Mary Sue or Deus Ex? How about both? It's like, no.
You're all wrong, angry fanboys. Because Star Wars is perfect because of terrible writing.
That's what he's saying, essentially.
Doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses. The Force dictates who wins or loses based on balance.
Based on balance. Did you hear that, guys? Everything that Luke did.
Not true at all.
Everything he tried to do and trained for, everything Anakin tried to do, everything Obi-Wan, Yoda, Dooku, all those guys, everything they wanted, all their desires, all their goals, completely meaningless. It's all about the Force, and it's all about the Force's desire for balance.
And whoever wins and whoever loses isn't a matter of their skill level. It's due to balance. So, of course, that means that Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine did not wipe out all those Jedi, and that Obi-Wan Kenobi was not the last one, and he was not stranded on a desert planet because the Jedi were not wiped out. It was only Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine were only able to wipe out enough so that they maintained the balance, and the dark side did not take over at all, and there was never ever any evil empire.
There was. They never actually described what the prophecy was because no one knew about it. They weren't sure about it. They heard of the prophecy, and they never explained what balance was. The only thing we knew was that there was a whole galaxy full of Jedi, and there were maybe, 3 Sith? There was Dooku, there was the Emperor, and then there was Darth Maul. That was all we knew in the prequels. So to me, if you're talking about balance of the Force, that's a lot of dead Jedi. I mean, is that what the Force wants? Really? Is that the point there, Freddie?
Wouldn't balance? I mean, if the Force dictates who wins due to balance, then I mean there would never be a takeover of the dark side like there was. Yeah, if that's true.
That means there's like this other galaxy or this other part of the galaxy that has like this whole kingdom of Jedi,
or something.
And the other side is a whole kingdom of Sith, and they're totally happy.
Kingdom of the Jedi.
Yeah, there's this huge galactic nation.
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Jedi.
The Kingdom of the Jedi. Yeah, they're just sitting there like everything's awesome. You know that prophecy? It's total bullshit. Everything's great here. We're all Jedi.
Oh yeah, we got that from a fortune cookie.
Yeah, but on the other side of the galaxy, there's like this entire empire of the Sith. Like that doesn't make any sense. If you're the Sith and you're constantly killing each other, wouldn't the Sith naturally eliminate each other? Like they'd be like 5 Sith wandering around because they're so powerful, and there's like this army.
That's why I think that's why there's only supposed to be 2 Sith at a time, because they kill each other off.
Yeah. See, it doesn't. See, the theory or the ideas that George Lucas came up with weren't well thought out. Okay, they didn't make so much sense when you actually stop and think for about 20 seconds, going, "Wait, what does balance actually mean?"
Yeah, he's a big picture guy. He's the grand scale guy. He's the big idea guy. He's not the all right, let's get down to the mechanics sort of guy.
So defaulting to this, if I know the guy who was taught by George, it's like, George is probably not the best scapegoat here, okay?
Yeah, he's not probably the best source of information for Star Wars. You probably leave that to the guys who actually wrote Star Wars.
Well, at least some of the writers and legends, at least they knew what they were doing to make proper characters in a story that, they weren't creating new force powers out of their ass. We have some new ones from Mace Windu. like Shatterpoint, those really powerful things. Mace Windu was kind of like this weird black sheep Jedi who was almost dark side, but he never gave in. And
I think it was a gray Jedi or something like that. It's what they're called.
it's hard. Like he invented such a lethal form of lightsaber combat. That's where he was allowed to channel his emotions, but he learned to just chill out because he was using it so much. So he had a lot of abilities, and again, it's always compared to Yoda. It's always like, oh well, he's just as powerful. The only one who could possibly challenge him would be Yoda. You're like, oh okay, cool. So it's like Yoda is like the epitome of Jedi-ness. And Mace Windu is like the badass guardian of Jedi fighting.
He's like the Captain Cisco of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
And here's the quick version on how to explain it to all these people who fucking think they get to decide. In the first if you want to do this like time-wise, Palpatine, you would say, and Yoda are the smartest two. Palpatine clearly smarter because Yoda was blind to the power of the dark side and the seduction of Anakin. So let's talk about the seduction of Anakin fucking Skywalker for a second. If the Emperor...
Which is, such a wonderful story.
Yeah, Darth Vader was good, Anakin Skywalker not so much. He was poorly handled.
You're talking about character development. I love you because story and I want you to not die. So
sand.
So sand is sand and love and this guy can make me live forever and I'm going to be powerful forever. You're like, Anakin, you are stupid. What are you talking about? It's just like, okay, this is a great story. Thanks, George. It's really...
In fact, that's what I'm talking about with George Lucas being the big picture guy. That's why you get the bland, like, two-dimensional recreation of Romeo and Juliet. None of the deeper themes or deeper mechanics or any of that stuff that actually held up that essential part of what we, as the general audience would know as Romeo and Juliet, the romantic dialogue and the tragic, they can't be together because of family, that sort of thing. George Lucas would see that, but he wouldn't see the things that create that and make that dramatic in the first place. So this is what I mean by him being a big picture guy. He'll scrape off the top of things he likes, but he won't appreciate or use the things that make it so put those things that he likes in such a good light that he likes them.
It's kind of hard to mix genres, especially romance. So if he actually knew how to write romance, then we'd actually go, okay, hey, here's a romantic story about a Jedi succumbing to his emotions. Great. We didn't get that. We got a guy who's like, I lust for you, and he's like constantly obsessed with this woman, and it's on the bordering creepy. Like, it's just bizarre. And for some reason,
he does make really creepy faces. Yeah,
it's really creepy. And for some reason, she's into it eventually. It's just like, what? Why?
It's like a video game.
You just keep nagging her, and she'll go out with you. It's like, that doesn't work.
Like every time he talks to her, the points keep going up, and then finally, suddenly, all right, we can get married, I guess.
It's just strange, and the dialogue does not help one bit, and his reasoning does not. This is not an argument to be made that Anakin is the way he is because George said so. It's just, this is a dumb story.
Yeah, I wouldn't listen to George Lucas on the mechanics of Star Wars, just the grand schemes of things, maybe.
Right.
I listen to the actual writers because they actually were the people who put a lot of these things together.
There's so many ways to write romance that you have an entire genre that's been going on for thousands of years of people writing romance sonnets and ballades and stories of noble people giving up everything for the thing they love, etc. And this was not one of those stories. This was just this weird, power-grabby, crazy pseudo-romance that didn't make too much sense. And then you throw in prophecy that made no sense. Then you throw in a second prophecy, so he sees his children die or whatever, or his wife dies, so he has to go figure out the solution to death. It was like, what? Are you crazy? And he just goes along with this. And you're like, oh.
I will say one thing about the Padme and Anakin romance. It was not nearly as jarring or out of place or weird as Canto Bight. Canto Bite just came out of nowhere. At least they kind of had a build up for the romance here, as poorly as handled as it was.
This is true. It was plot relevant, the romance. So
At least it was plot relevant.
with Canto Bite, you're like, why are we here?
Why are we Why are we here with like Finn and this person, Rose Tico? Why are we back with Rey? What are we doing? Did he run out of like space? Was the film too short, so you added in Canto Bite?
I still can't
At
believe
least the romance was fine.
Yeah,
the romance was plot relevant.
Yeah, it was plot. If it's plot relevant, I'm happy it's there, even if it was handled poorly. So, but let's see what he has to say about Anakin Skywalker and his seduction to the dark side.
The smartest dude in the universe and knows that the Force dictates this. If he kills who he sees as a rival, Anakin, then he knows the Force is just going to fucking correct that because the Emperor.
Really, he knows that. I don't remember reading about that or seeing that or.
The Emperor knows everything. I guess he's he's omnipotent.
The Force is just going to do it.
You know, maybe Palpatine was Q this whole time.
Because why did he kill Dooku? Why did Dooku die?
I have no idea.
He said, "Do it,
I don't know.
Do it, Anakin." He's like, "Why? Don't you want people on your side?
Because it'd be cool. Let's cut his head off. Be cool.
Do it." Like, why? You need people on your side, Emperor. Like, just or whatever your name is at the time. He's young and strong. Okay. But Dooku's experienced and badass and loyal.
He seemed very loyal to me. Like, it didn't seem like he was trying to back. Maybe in the show or something. But according to the movies, Dooku seemed pretty loyal to the Emperor. I don't know why he would want him to die.
Yeah, he was pretty respectful too. He's like, okay, whatever the Emperor wants, we're gonna follow him. It's like, all right. He was the number one man, doing all his evil deeds. I'm like, why would you eliminate him just because you have this crazy dude who actually lost his arms to him?
Yeah, Dooku he took on Yoda, he took on Obi-Wan and Anakin, and he still walked away. So, I mean, I would take Dooku. I'd put my money on him.
Anakin,
I'd like to appreciate the irony of Freddie Prinze Jr. getting this worked up, this throwing around curse words and getting this fired up over a movie that's essentially for kids. Remember, and this is a kids movie. Why are you getting so worked up over it? What does it matter to you that some people get angry? It's just a movie for kids, right?
And he's inventing lore that the Emperor just knows the balance of the Force
on the spot. Okay, I have a horrible argument, so let me just pull out stuff out of nowhere so that my argument can seem more valid.
Yeah, it's just okay.
Knows this. These are George Lucas's words, not mine. So fuck you if you disagree.
These are George Lucas's words. Well, I don't really trust George Lucas on the lore of Star Wars.
It does not matter what George Lucas or Rian Johnson what they say. It matters what movie they make. Okay, George Lucas has some pretty stupid ideas. Now, comparatively speaking, they're pretty smart to the current trilogy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I take George Lucas back in a heartbeat if he could take it back.
But reading them maybe 10 years ago, you'd be like, "This is ridiculous. George, are you serious? You want to go to the microbiology of the Force? Like, why? Why don't midi-chlorians were a bad idea already? Now you want to go further? Are you nuts?"
Like you do know that George Lucas made up Midi-chlorians, right? I'm not really going to go to George Lucas for an authority on the lore of Star Wars. Thank you very much.
I mean, again, we could say that those are ideas that are good as ideas, but once you flesh them out, you have to really understand them to make sense of them, and then
George Lucas is kind of like the guy who just barks out ideas, and then he has to have a filter of experienced and knowledgeable writers to go, no, it's bad egg. You know that thing in Willy Wonka, bad egg, good egg. That's what they have to do with all of George Lucas's ideas. George Lucas just spews them out like a shotgun, and the writers have to catch these ideas he spews out, and they have to say, okay, this might work.
Yeah,
this one definitely will not.
Because when he introduced that was essentially a retcon, and he didn't provide enough exposition for us to wrap our brains around. How the hell did Yoda know about midi-chlorians all this time and never talk about them? Like, what was the big deal? Was there like this ban on like science, like no one can know about the midi-chlorians, we have to keep it quiet? Like, that would have made sense. We say, okay, that's why in the future no one talks about them. So
yeah,
it would have been like, oh my god, this dude's power level is huge, we got to keep this a secret. Well, how do we do
over
that?
9,000.
Yeah, we got to keep it a secret. Let's just like ban the information of midi-chlorians, and that's that. It's like, oh, what? We can't do that. And then there's this big argument, and the Jedi are lying, and Anakin's like, why are you lying about my power level? If I was known to be this strong, I'd be a Jedi Knight by now. And then he get pissed off at the Jedi, and then he seek the dark side, and then, hey, look, he's accepted at the dark side. Like, that would make so much more sense, that he had a falling out with the Jedi because of their lies. And as opposed to, we can't kill a Sith. It's like, why not? He's evil. He's going to kill you. He's going to kill everyone.
That's a good point. Also, E.C. Khan says midi-chlorians were in the original 1976 script to New Hope. Yeah, that's what I mean by a filter. The people who read over that script after George Lucas spewed out that idea said, no, this is not going to work. Let's throw that out. And then that's why you don't see midi-chlorians until George Lucas had full control.
Yeah.
And surrounded himself with a bunch of yes men. Because the writers who were questioning him at that time, because he wasn't powerful enough to fire them or whatever.
Right. And
they said, nope, not going to work. Get out of here.
And if he wanted to have an exposition about the nature of the Force and midi-chlorians, great. But the way it was handled was poor. It was not told or explained in a way that made sense. For example, if there was a mention of Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon saying to Anakin, this is a secret by the Jedi, that there is a organism called the midi-chlorians, which are undetectable by current technology, but we can sense them, and they're in your bloodstream, da-da-da-da. You're like, oh, okay, there's this big secret that you can't share, that because he's Force sensitive or because Anakin's like this amazing potential, he's going to explain it to them, and then Yoda will tell it to them. And it's like, okay, yeah, we can now share secrets. We're part of a cabal. We're now this secret order called the Jedi, and that's what we do. We hold on to these secrets of the galaxy that no one else knows. Fine. Great. That's why we don't hear about it later on, because most of the Jedi are gone. Why would they talk about these things when it doesn't really matter? Luke would be like, what the hell's a midi-chlorian? Why does that matter to me? I can't use that. Like, I don't know what to do with that. So that would help. See, there's proper ways, there's easy proper ways to tell the story that George wanted, but he never got that filter. He never got that proper instruction from an editor or a writer saying, George, okay, great idea, man. We got to clean it up. Let's go with that. See? And it would work. But I don't know what Freddie's talking about here with George being God and everything that George says is true. That's not how it works. Once you produce that media, it belongs to the audience. And all the lore exists in the media. It does not exist outside the media. It does not exist on the scrapbooks. It does not exist on the cutting room floor. It's only in the public sphere. So that's I think he's making that argument with George. George is the final say. Okay, whatever. Except not today, because George has sold everything to Lucasfilm. So
agree with me. Straight up, this is information, not affirmation time. Straight up, man. So the Emperor knows that. So instead of killing Anakin, what does he do? He seduces Anakin to double the strength of the dark side. So then what does the Force do?
Balance.
It balances us. How? It gives us twins.
Okay. If the Force gives us twins through Anakin, and those are his kids, would he have tripled or quadrupled his powers? Because they're his? I mean...
Did the Force know that they're going to like separate?
Yeah.
And then send them off somewhere else?
Did the Force predict all of this? Like, is this like a big game to the Force? Like, is this the pernicious nature of the Force? Like, yeah, we'll just, now you're going to have kids, and they're not going to like you, and you're never going to see them again.
Now the Force seems more like a god or something, rather than like a force.
Yeah, it sounds like a Greek god or a Roman god that plays tricks on mankind and does whatever. It sleeps with women, and they're divinely inseminated, like Anakin was. And
is the Force Zeus?
it sounds like Zeus. It sounds like this crazy evil genius running around the galaxy, granting powers and babies for some reason, because balance. Like, what is this?
Balance.
Balance is the argument. Balance of what? Balance of the Force. So the Force is trying to balance itself? Like, what are you talking about?
Why do the Jedi even exist? They seem so concerned with keeping the Force in balance, but apparently the Force does that on its own.
And only the Emperor knows this.
Yeah, only the Emperor,
So
not
maybe,
Yoda, but the
yeah,
Emperor.
maybe the Jedi have this fake version of balance that they don't understand. But the Emperor's like, oh yeah, I know what the balance is. You guys are crazy. He's like, what? There's so many questions, Freddie. I don't know where you're getting this, but apparently
Where did Palpatine get all this knowledge and everything? I don't know. He just has it. Okay.
He's always had it. He's the smartest guy. He knows.
He's just super smart. He's kind of has all this knowledge, kind of like how Rey has all the Force powers.
That would explain a lot.
Because she's the DM's girlfriend or something. I don't know.
Oh, Freddie, what are you talking about?
Luke and Leia, 2 and fucking 2.
What are you talking about? What? Luke and Leia are twins. Okay. Emperor Palpatine and
I mean, the Force didn't do a very good job. Leia never became a Jedi until the Last Jedi, where she suddenly is able to breathe in space or something.
Okay, so he's saying that Luke and Leia are equivalent to the Emperor and Anakin? Really? What about Obi-Wan? What about Yoda? What about all the dozens of other Jedi that were just about to be killed by Order 66? Yeah, what about Darth Maul? Isn't that 3-2? Like, what is he talking about?
Maybe at the very end. I mean, that's why. So at the very end, we maybe had Palpatine and Vader, and then on the other hand, we still had Yoda and Obi-Wan. The number is 1-to-1. Mentor and I don't know, their lesser person. You know, I guess Obi-Wan would still be a student to Yoda at that point, even though they are separated. He is. So Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, Palpatine versus Yoda, they're both still alive. The Force would technically still be in balance.
Yeah,
except, only the dark side is still kind of in power because they're taking control of things politically, but the Force is balanced.
Yeah, he's trying to create some sort of even binary by adding up twins to, like, Luke and Leia are equivalent to all the dark side. Like, really? Like,
yeah, if that was true, then the Force would be unbalanced now. The Force would have been balanced now that everyone's dead, except for Vader and Obi-Wan and Palpatine and Yoda. But now that Luke and Leia were born, that seems like imbalanced to me now.
Which doesn't make sense to all the actual species that are naturally Force sensitive, like the Miralukas. Like they're born blind. They have no eyes, and they Force see everything. Like that's their lifestyle. So are they like neutral? Like what? I don't. Like, what do you? It's just like, what are you talking about? Like what? How can you?
So even when you're being the most generous to Freddie Prinze Jr., he's still very, very wrong. All
right, just got a super chat. Thank you, Darth Malrak. Very, very fitting username there. Wouldn't it make more sense for Palp to abandon the Force to make the Jedi weak? Oh, that's interesting. And then kill them all and rule the Empire without using the Force, so no more Jedi come up. Hey, that sounds like a plot for a KOTOR game. You close yourself off from the Force, and that causes an imbalance. And then you discover your enemies, and then you eliminate them conventionally. And then, who needs the Force? Use the Force to live forever, Emperor.
That's a really cool meta strategy there. That's going to trick the Force into revealing my enemies for me.
It's a meta plot. It's like before.
That's some 4-dimensional chess right there.
It's like, whoa, you're superseding the Force's intentions because, of course, balance is all things, but we don't know what balance is yet. So,
if it worked, that'd be cool though. That'd be a really neat plot. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. Whew. Okay, Freddie.
Balance. And if you look at the movie through just that simple perspective.
Okay, yeah, so here's
simple perspective. You look at it through a wrong perspective. It doesn't make any sense.
If you only watch the movies that I say how to watch them, you're doing it right. Every other way is wrong.
Like if you only watch the movie the correct way to watch the movie, then you wouldn't be angry about the Star Wars franchise being run to the ground.
Is he quoting Patrick Willems twice? Star Wars is for babies or kids. And you're watching movies. I think he is. I think he's quoting exactly what Patrick Willems said.
Star Wars is for kids, and you're watching movies wrong.
Yeah, it's for space. It's a movie about space wizards for children, right? So it's like, dude.
Space wizards and laser swords,
Oh my
and you're watching movies wrong. It's not that this Disney produced a horrible, awful movie franchise. It's that the people who are angry about their terrible writing are just watching the movie wrong.
Oh, if only we had the innocence and imagination of a child, this would be a great. But why can't we? We're adults, damn it. We just can't. Just can't believe it.
I don't think even kids would buy this.
Yeah.
This is
Kids would be like, wait a second.
Freddie Prinze Jr., you're dumb.
What are you talking about?
These are dumb arguments, Freddie Prinze Jr. These are really dumb arguments. I hope that check you got from Disney was sufficiently large.
Well, he played the character for what, 4 years or 4 seasons?
Yeah,
I think.
I think so.
Plenty of yearly work there.
Which makes it even more embarrassing that he's this wrong still.
Oh yeah, he's so need like if I was a voice actor, I would treat it as a job professionally, but I wouldn't lose sight of my intelligence. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I understand what like I could voice my talent for anything, but I'm not like, hey, I really like whatever My Little Pony. Like it's like no, I'm just a voice in the show. I don't actually like it that much. Like I'm not into it. It's just a job. I'm professional. That's what I do. But he's like, no. This is how you watch it, man. You're watching it wrong.
This is how you watch it. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these people came out with a book dictating to you how to properly watch a movie.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just bizarre.
I might write one just to be
really
just to
troll everyone.
How to watch a movie.
When watching a movie, the angle of the popcorn bag has to be within 2 centimeters of your thighs. And like,
I might do that. It'd be funny.
The sufficient amount of butter must be at this room temperature. Okay.
You will not only know why every single bad guy loses and every single good guy loses.
Every single bad guy loses?
To know why good guys win and bad guys lose, it's all due to the force and balance. There's no actual free will, and there's no really dramatic tension, I guess, because it's all due to balance.
There's no skill or cleverness or planning or foresight or insight into the future that the Jedi meditate for days and days over.
Nope.
There's no feelings of intuition of like what's gonna like I could feel the future. None of that.
So because what Freddie Prinze Jr. is essentially saying is that if there are maybe 10 Sith and all the Jedi are wiped out, if you hand a 10-year-old kid who is strong in the Force and hand them a lightsaber and they're on the good guy side, he'll be able to kill all the experienced Sith Jedi or experienced Sith Force users with no problem because the Force said so. That's what he's arguing. So if there was a 10-year-old kid who just never held a lightsaber before, he shoved a lightsaber in his hands, he'll be able to beat every single Sith until the Force is balanced.
Yeah, I remember the quote from Rian Johnson saying that Broom Boy was himself, like he saw himself as Broom Boy. So essentially, if we have a time skip of 1 year, I don't know how old that kid is, but he's probably like 7 or 8. So a 9-year-old kid is going to be able to stop, I guess, Rey, just because the Force said so.
If that happens, I'm done with Star Wars. I'm finished. This is dumb. No.
Yeah, there's another super chat from Darth. Lucas and Filoni taught me, the secrets of the Force. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That's his rant. Because Lucas said so, and Filoni was my producer, therefore you're wrong. It's like, okay, thanks.
He said he was taught in the ways of the Force. Like he himself as a Jedi. He was taught. Like there's a actual like Tao of Force or something like that.
Yeah. So I guess because all the Jedi were killed, then the balance of the Force means it's like all the Jedi are going to come back and kill all the Sith now. I think it's a seesaw. Giant seesaw. There's no.
Keep the balance. Keep the balance.
This century it's the Jedi. Next century it's the Sith. Next century it's the Jedi. Just up and down.
You'll know who's gonna win and lose in the next fucking movies. I can tell you. I just don't want to wreck it.
Oh, he knows already. Oh, thanks. He knows what's gonna happen. He didn't even talk to J.J. Abrams. He doesn't know J.J. Abrams. He just knows what's going to happen because
George Lucas told
because
him.
George Lucas said so.
Because Disney's all about listening to George Lucas, as we well know.
What is he talking about? I know it's going to happen because it just, I just know. It just.
I think he just hates the fanboys. He just hates the all the fanboy passion and everything like that. I think he just wants to be in on the good. What was it? The right side of history or whatever. you all hate women and you don't actually have any actual criticism. You're just angry because you're all big blubbery man
Just
babies or something.
targeting the straw man halfway around the world. Like, what are you talking about, buddy? We're over here.
People bitch about the dumbest shit like it's archetype characters. This is George Lucas's words. There is no Jack Bauer in Star Wars. That character doesn't exist.
What is
Jack Bauer? What are you talking about? I think he's saying that Han Solo is not Jack Bauer. Well, thank you very much for that astute observation.
Did you know there's archetypical characters in Star Wars, guys?
No way.
Wow.
No.
And because they're archetypes, therefore, the bad guys are going to lose, and the good guys are going to win. That's just how it's done. There's no in between. Like the prequel film, when when Anakin loses, he really becomes evil, but he's really losing because he became Darth Vader. Like Darth Vader is one of the most powerful dudes in the original trilogy. Like,
he's the right hand man of the Empire. He's a sledgehammer, essentially.
He is. I mean, did he lose? Yeah, he lost the battle to Obi-Wan, but he became this ridiculously powered Darth that just took over the galaxy with the Emperor. So is that winning? Is that what you call losing? I don't know. It's an origin story. Obviously, he has to still survive. We have to understand his motivation and what happened to him, which was really poorly put together. So technically he won because he became Darth Vader. He wasn't too happy about it, but that's what we got. I still don't know. Did he win?
Balance of that.
Yeah. Did the Force tell him that he won or lost? I don't know.
So the Force comes in and says, "Hey, Palpatine, good job. You won."
Darth Vader is the most archetypical villain in cinema. Like, does that mean I know he's going to lose? I don't know. What?
But it's all due to balance, right? Because that's what he's saying. He doesn't want to ruin it because George Lucas told him that the people who win, it's not due to skill or knowledge in the Force. It's all due to the Force trying to balance itself, which I guess that means that since Palpatine and Darth Vader took over for so long, I guess Palpatine just bribed the Force with a bunch of fives and I had a strip club and said, okay, you're gonna say that you're balanced, right? I'm gonna be in control. You're gonna say you're balanced. We have a capisci, little deal going on, and the Force gives him like a thumbs up.
Yeah.
or maybe he had the Force go into one of Palpatine's strip clubs, and the Force got drunk one night. Accidentally kills a hooker. Palpatine covers it up. The Force tosses him a few favors. Suddenly, I'm balanced, even though Palpatine's on top with Darth Vader. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Backdoor dealings.
Those Baccarat games get always hitched, and people have to pay through their tongue or whatever the saying goes. As if you lose your life at the Baccarat table. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. First it was the Force balance. Now it's archetypes. Archetypes.
Of course, there's archetypes in here. I mean,
I don't know. Sure, I guess. But what does that mean?
Isn't the revelation you're giving upon us, Mr. Prinze?
Yeah.
It's not the revelation. I think everyone who's ever even heard about Star Wars knows that little secret.
Yeah, we could say that Hero's Journey has archetypes, and we do know that Joseph Campbell was inspired by Jung, who had the shadow self and archetypes and all the the magician and the wise man, all that stuff. But what he's trying to say, I don't understand. So
I guess people want Han Solo to be Jack Bauer.
Yeah,
I don't.
I feel like he took like a creative writing course, and he took the first week, and then he forgot everything he learned, and just
He
like
said, I'm done. Like I already know all this, so I'm
I
leaving. Or something.
guess Archetypes, young Joseph Campbell. What don't you understand, people? What?
I mean, in all fairness, if Han Solo were to have his own movie, in his own movie, he should have been more like Jack Bauer, able to defeat enemies, because he's the central character of the movie. But I didn't see him as like a Jack Bauer figure because he's a smuggler. Jack Bauer is not a smuggler. He's a government agent who will do anything to get the job done. Two totally different
Yeah.
people.
Exist. It's not Han Solo. Han Solo's a reluctant hero. Okay, he's a reluctant hero. That's the archetype. Darth Maul, who everybody wants to win, and he's everyone's favorite because he looks sick and he's great in the video games.
Does look cool.
Fuck you.
Okay, so when Han Solo dies, is that winning, or is he because he's a reluctant? Like he's still a reluctant hero in Force Awakens. He's like putzing around the galaxy. It's like, okay, is he winning when he dies? Did he win? Did he get what he wanted? Did he lose? Did he? I don't think he
Didn't
won.
look like winning. Didn't look like winning.
No.
He literally got stabbed.
He got stabbed by the person he loved.
That's what I mean by not respecting the original characters. They just killed off Han Solo for pretty much no reason, and they just had him in there to be in the movie. He didn't really do anything other than just be there and then die. There was no nothing was like really hinging on his existence. He wasn't like the perpetrator of a big plan or anything like that. He just kind of existed and then died with no fanfare or anything that gave him deference in the script. Again, he was just there and died, and that's why he was so disrespectful. That's why some people see it as disrespectful, because he didn't get the death that a character as iconic as Han Solo deserved.
Yeah, it's a very strange argument he's making, that if you're saying because of archetype we understand why they win or lose, and there was no winning or losing for Han Solo in the first movie. He just saved Luke's ass at the end so that Luke could do his job. Like that was, I mean, like,
And Han Solo was a real badass in that movie. He just, he went along with Luke's crazy half-baked plan, and then when things went wrong, it was Han and Chewie who came in and started shooting everybody up and gave them a bottom enough time for them to escape down the tunnel. And then Leia, of course, came in and saved them by putting him in a different dangerous situation.
I know it's just hard to make a sense of an archetype which somehow determines winning or lose. It's such a strange. I've never heard people talk about an archetype saying, "Oh well, because he's a detective character, he's technically the magician archetype. Therefore, he's going to solve the case." But it's like, well, what if there's two detectives? Like, there's plenty of stories. I remember a Poirot story. There's another British detective called the Pipe, and he's in a challenge with Poirot. So one of these guys are going to lose, but they're the same archetype. So it's always the hero magician archetype? Is that because he's up against another protagonist? Like, what are you talking? Like, it's very strange to say that, and I want to know where he's coming from. Maybe there's some truth to it. I just can't. Like, really, Han Solo is a side character, right? He's like the hero's hero. He's helping Luke do his job.
Yeah, he's the roguish, but he's a roguish guy. He's very competent and capable.
Yeah, he's a supporting role, right?
Yeah, he's a side character. He's not the main character.
So I don't know what, like you're adding, like, okay, he's a side character plus he's an archetype, therefore he's going to win because he's one of the good guys, or is it? I don't get it. I don't like. You can go.
According to him and George Lucas, it's all about balance. It's nothing is about skill or any kind of talent.
Yeah,
it's just
but
balance in the Force.
But Han Solo isn't Force sensitive. He's not even like.
I guess it really doesn't matter.
Does it matter?
Are you on the good side of the Force or the bad side of the dark side of the Force? I think I'm on the light side of the Force. Oh, therefore you win. The dark side is kind of they kind of insulted me or something like that.
Okay. So good guys win.
The Force is basically Zeus.
I'm quite sure in reading Joseph Campbell, there's nothing about good guys winning.
This would be the dumbest premise if this were true. Freddie Prinze Jr.
Or archetypes. This archetype always wins, or this archetype always like never. Never ever read anything about that.
You guys, he's Sisyphus. He is born to fail. Look,
Whoa. Sisyphus.
Okay. Hold on. What?
Okay.
What are you talking about?
He's pulling out some Greek terms. I'm like, okay, buddy.
This is really, really bad.
I'm gonna get a little Greek on his ass here. If you guys don't know the story of Sisyphus, Iliad and the Odyssey. I believe it's in the Odyssey first. Sisyphus is a guy who's so cool.
He's a badass, man. They should make a movie about Sisyphus.
Yeah, he was like a king, I believed, and he cheated death. I don't know how many times. Okay, so failure is not in Sisyphus's vocabulary. Okay, he had to get Zeus, the king of the gods, to kill him permanently because he was. And that's kind of the story to explain why you can't cheat death. Like you can't cheat Hades anymore because he's already been cheated, and Zeus made sure of that, so no one who dies can come back to life. So Sisyphus was cursed in Hades to constantly roll up a boulder up a hill, and when it gets to the top, it sort of crushes him, and it goes back to the down. He has to go back and pick it up. That was his curse for cheating death several times. So Sisyphus doesn't fail. He is punished for being awesome.
Yeah, he is. I think I would put Sisyphus against Odysseus any day.
Oh, God.
Put my money on Sisyphus.
Sisyphus, a warrior king that cheated death. Pretty much, I don't know who he flirted with to do it. Like, he's just an amazing character that was so badass that he could do all these feats. And Odysseus, as amazing as his journey was just pretty much immortal. And had to deal with all kinds of supernatural creatures and gods. Sisyphus
outsmarted gods and other lesser deities before breakfast. That's what Sisyphus does.
Yeah. So I think he's talking about the whole
Darth Maul. Wait, he's talking about Darth Maul. Darth Maul as Sisyphus.
I don't get it.
Even if you go to the basic story of Sisyphus, with it's just him pushing a rock up a hill, and then it falls down. The never-ending, impossible task, whatever.
That's what you think of when you think of Sisyphus, the actual punishment he was given.
Unfortunately, I mean, Sisyphus is way cooler than that. But that's not Darth Maul.
Darth Maul gets chopped in half, magically survives in the animated show. With some weird witch techno magic, and he's got like robot legs now.
Yeah, somehow.
And
it's real cool.
That's it. That's Darth. Like this, Darth Maul has no character aside from I want revenge, and we don't know why. I think his brother might have died. I don't know. It's
something like that. It's if Darth Maul were Sisyphus, he'd be going to do one particular task over and over again and continuing to fail.
Yeah.
There's no particular one task that Darth Maul wants to do. I don't even know what he wants to do. I'm not really sure what his motivations are because I've just seen the movies. I don't know what he wants to do. So if we knew what his motivation was, then we could see more of a Sisyphean sort of adventure. But no, you're just pulling things out of nowhere so they can make yourself seem like you have a more valid point. There's no way that if anyone knows about Sisyphus, they would ever connect him to Darth Maul. At least not if you just watch the movies.
It's a stretch, to put it lightly. And
huge stretch. I think every single point he's making is a huge, gigantic stretch.
Sisyphus. I'm like, okay, you pulled out the Greek mythology. You're on our level. You are gonna get it. Yeah, if he keeps going, we're gonna bash the crap out of him.
Learn your Greek mythology,
learn your Greek mythology, you plebeians. What do you know?
Learn your Greek mythology, because I obviously am a master of.
Go back to school and read about Homer. Take a course, goddammit.
Get on my level. And when you are on my level, you understand how Darth Maul is like Sisyphus. Don't ask me how. I have no idea. Was there a one point where Darth Maul outwitted gods and death and
started a village that became a kingdom, and he came back twice?
I mean, that would be cool if he did, because Darth Maul does look really cool, and it'd be cool if he were a Sisyphean character, but he just isn't. He just isn't.
At least not in the movies.
You are wrong. You are wrong.
He's kind of in the cartoons for a bit, but not enough to warrant any character analysis to say he's Sisyphean.
Learn your Greek mythology.
Yeah. Jesus.
I don't know. George fucking Lucas did. He's
Yeah. You know what?
Hold on. What?
Yeah, I honestly don't believe George Lucas knows too much about Greek mythology. I think he studied with Joseph Campbell, and I'm sure Joseph Campbell studied that because he had to go through Jung and Freud and all that stuff. So yeah, that he would have to have touched a Latin or Greek or Roman mythos. So yeah, okay. But George, I don't know any evidence of George studying Greek mythos.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and it's possible.
Also,
but
even if he did, just because you know someone who studied Greek mythology doesn't mean automatically you know Greek mythology.
Yeah, and if we're talking about the mythos of Star Wars, we have to look at first, obviously, Joseph Campbell and the Bhagavad Gita, of the story of a son overcoming his father and the challenges therein. So there was all sorts of Indian myths that we can look through there, but it's loosely connected. So it's not like this direct connection, but that's where you would go. You would start with the Bhagavad Gita and say, okay, read this. It's classic story, and the rest is full cloth. Like he just wrote it the way he wanted, which a little bit of Buddhism, a little bit of mythos, mysticism here and there. That's about it. There's not too much depth to it. Like when he talks about compassion in one of those famous interviews, and then he talks about how the dark side is this or that, he doesn't go into much detail, because as soon as he starts explaining what hatred is and how you get there, he falls apart. Because he's a big idea guy. Because again, he did not study psychology to that degree. He's not a student of Jung. He is a student of Campbell, which is mythos, which is not psychology. So if you wanted to get, like, remember that rant, not rant, the speech by Yoda, fear leads to hate leads to this, and blah, blah, blah. It's stupid. It's a really dumb series of logical connections that it's just all these inferences. It's like, well, this leads to that, and this leads to that. It's like, well, can't this also lead to like 50 other things?
No, it can't, obviously.
Like, don't you think the human psyche is a bit more complicated than...
You're hating wrong.
This linear quest to the dark side. And if that was the linear path, then all you had to do is like, hey, you know what? Don't do these 4 things in order, and you'll never, ever get to the dark side. It's really that simple. But nope. No, it's just... anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. It's like, what?
What are you smoking, Yoda?
What are you talking about? Yeah. So any writer who went to like post-secondary education for like a year or two, who took first year psych or first year philosophy or first year arts and science would be like, yeah, that's pretty weak.
Darth Maul as Sisyphus.
But what you're really talking about is Vegeta. When Vegeta was doing this...
Let's talk about Star Wars. So Vegeta, right? Bob Chipman. Let's talk about the new Joker. That's like a Martin Scorsese Joker. So first, let's talk about Vegeta. No, get out of here. Go somewhere else. This job is not yours. Okay?
Oh, jeez.
You weren't meant to do this job.
Every time I think about it, it's like, oh. That'll last me another 3 months before it exits my system, yeah.
Let's talk about Joker. So Vegeta,
right? Okay, we're calm. We're good. One more minute, guys. We're good.
Cursed to roll a boulder up the hill, only to have it roll to the bottom again every single time for eternity. Yes. That is Darth Maul's quest. Yes.
What is he talking about?
What are you talking about?
Where?
What are you talking about?
How
crazy are you?
Quest?
What is his quest? What is his personality, first of all?
He doesn't have a person. He's just angry and he wants revenge, and we don't know for what.
He's just really cool looking.
He was there for shock value. He's a devil with a dual-bladed lightsaber, and that's all.
Tell me his quest. Explain to me his quest.
His personality is he has a dual-bladed lightsaber. Now, obviously in Legends and in Rebels, he was brought out a bit more. Sure, they did that because there are actual writers on that show.
Oh yeah, they knew actually had to write something.
but not in. So maybe he's referring to the show. Okay, maybe we'll give him that. He was in the show. He knows about Darth Maul. Great. Guess what? Not in the movies. He's not. He is a blip.
Yeah, I mean, the least he could have done in his rant is explain to us in maybe one sentence what his quest is, because I have no idea. I've seen him in 2 movies, and I have no idea what his personality is, or let alone his quest.
He is a mini boss for the sake of having one, and then he's gone.
Video game mini boss.
Yes,
he's a video game mini boss.
That's all he's there for.
Now, granted, to Freddie Prinze Jr., he is really cool looking.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, the design, the actor who I think the same guy who did the stunts was also the same guy who played him. He's the same guy who played the frog in the original X-Men movie. Toad. Toad in the so like the guy knew how to fight. The guy knew how to do stunts. So it was natural for him to get in the makeup and say, hey, I can do this stuff. Yeah, I can fight. I can do backflips. Okay, cool. You're hired. Like that's a perfect fit. Good actor. Good talent. All you got to do is jump around and swing your stick. Like great. So didn't have to act too much. Which is sad because we needed to know what the hell this guy is, why he is, and then he just gets tossed down a tower, and you're like, okay.
As far as I know, his personality is bad guy.
Yeah,
that's it.
Unfortunately, so cool looking dude, really cool weapon, and really good music, and that was that. Sadly, in the movies, we get a really stupid cameo in Solo for no reason. Which was,
absolutely no reason. It wasn't really. It would have been better if they didn't do that at all.
No, it was just.
Just remember, the only thing I remember from it is he's standing up and then igniting his lightsaber for no reason.
Yeah, it was like, okay, why?
Switches it all.
We got you. You were Darth Maul. We figured it out. Oh, now you're really Darth Maul. Okay, bye.
It was meant to be intimidating, but it just made me laugh because it was for no reason at all.
Oh yeah, it was just silly.
He's in on the joke, you guys. He knows it. He's just cursed to live that life.
What is he talking about?
So he's Sisyphus because his quest is impossible. He's in on the joke. He knows it. He's okay. This doesn't make any sense. Why would he do this unless he's like Deadpool and he knows he's a character in a movie?
Yeah, I mean, I want to know if he knows, if Darth Maul knows what he's doing and why. Could he tell the audience that? Because I have no idea. But apparently Freddie Prinze does, because he pulled a Greek reference.
Yeah, we gotta learn your Greek mythology, guys. Because if you read mythology right, Darth Maul is totally Sisyphus.
Oh dear.
Again, not my opinion. George Lucas's. So go.
It's not my opinion. It's George. It's all George, guys. Come on.
It's all George. It's all George because he had great ideas, especially in the prequel.
This is bizarre. It's like, hey, you know what? This is me ranting. This is really George. So if you're gonna attack anyone, just attack George. Okay. I'm just telling you.
Disagree with me. Is it? I think wasn't this called appeal of authority? Like appeal from authority?
It's something like I know God and I'm speaking for God, kind of like that. Yeah.
Appeal to God.
Yeah, no, that's how they treat. Oh,
appealing from God.
The creator said X, and now you guys know, so that's how you should think. It's like, no, it's not how it works.
Yeah, it's not really how it works at all.
A person who is a writer who has thoughts is external to the actual writing he writes or the thing he creates. Once the art is out there, that art is its own creation and its own beast. And that is what you judge. You do not judge how the art was made, what techniques they used, what they were thinking, what their philosophy, like none of that matters. I don't care if it's like a pedophile who destroyed civilizations in his past life or whatever. None of that matters to me. I care about what he wrote. Like when we learn about Holden Caulfield. Hey, I didn't know Salinger was a dick or liked teenage girls. Like that's kind of creepy. But he wrote some pretty good stories.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not going to judge him for being a weirdo.
That's pretty much the history of writers. I mean,
well, yeah, some of them are pretty weird.
Some pretty weird, but they make great stuff.
Yeah, they are inspired by the strangest things, and they have weird tastes and very odd philosophies, but we don't care. We care about what they left behind, which was essentially their legacy of great art. So him talking the platitudes of whatever George might have said is almost immaterial. I mean, it's nice to know, but it's like, yeah, that's not an argument for what he produced. And plus, Rebels and all the other extended legends weren't made by George. So I don't know what, like, all these statements he's made are inapplicable to the current trilogy because they're not relevant. They're dead. They're non-canon. So
Disney has tossed away George Lucas.
Yes,
They have blocked him. They are not returning his phone calls. They have broken up completely.
essentially. And we've heard it from Lucas and the memoirs of Mr. Iger. Is it Iger, the head of CEO of Disney?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't a secret. Like, we knew about it years ago. He just published an actual book from the other side, so it was confirmed to be true. So, George isn't happy. A lot of the fans aren't happy. And Freddie Prinze is furious that no one understands.
And none of these fans can somehow comprehend or watch movies correctly.
Yeah. Okay, almost done. 30 seconds, almost. Yes. So much. We spoke for almost an hour and a half on the amazing words of Mr. Prinze Jr.
Fuck yourself if you disagree.
Ooh, not a good argument style there, buddy. Don't swear at your opponent. Especially when there's insider
disagree, okay?
Yeah. When you have insider information they weren't aware of that you're sort of sharing with us from up high, it's like, oh, thank you. Okay, I'll take that and throw it to all the next pile that you've just been talking about and evaluate it as such, because this is not how you argue, guys. You do not, well, if you get angry, obviously you're going to rant, but don't do it publicly, okay? Just don't put it on film.
You don't get to level up in the Star Wars world. That's a fucking video game.
Okay, so what's training then? What does Luke do when he trains?
Apparently, you don't need that. You don't need that, according to Freddie Prinze Jr. No one needs to train. It's just they just have to exist. And as long as the Force is out of balance, one side will win.
So what's the point of Luke trying to train Rey?
All these movies are moot. All these movies doesn't matter what happens in them. None of the training exists. None of the training matters. It's just busy work.
So essentially,
because the Force will let you win anyway.
So essentially, what you're saying, the role of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, and what Rey was trying to do on the island or the planet was worthless.
Yes, it's all worthless.
That's
There's
what
no
he's saying.
need to train.
That's what he's
Yeah,
saying.
it's exactly what he's saying. It's exactly what he's saying. He specifically said, it doesn't matter your talent, doesn't matter about your skills. It matters about the Force and the balance of that Force. And if the Force is unbalanced, this is the dumbest thing I have ever heard about. This is stupid. This is really stupid.
I just read a chat by Time Flies By. You must complete your training. Yoda, the liar.
yeah, Yoda's a liar then. Yoda's a dirty, dirty liar. Because Luke didn't have to complete anything.
Yeah.
All he had to do was just let Luke go. As long as the Force is unbalanced on the side of the dark side, Luke would win.
Obi-Wan, also a liar. He's like telling him not to go. No, just all wrong. Damn,
Completely wrong.
There's no leveling up, guys. There's no such thing as the hero's journey because there's no leveling. It's not a video game. You can't. There's no progression of talent or skill or experience or abilities or insight or changing yourself or growing. That is, it's like he's essentially contradicting the hero's journey, really. The whole point of the hero's journey is change. And if you're not growing, you're not changing. So, this is sad. He was so gung-ho at George Lucas. Then he just like, you know what, George Lucas, that thing with Joseph Campbell, that's bullshit. Like, oh.
No, it's really Sisyphus because Darth Maul, the guy who has zero personality and is just there to be the bad guy in the movie, is Sisyphus somehow. And if you don't think so, if you don't agree with me, you better learn your Greek mythology. Because even if you do learn your Greek mythology, you still don't agree. You mythologied wrong.
Oh no, you're not reading your mythology right. Yeah, you're reading books wrong. You're reading stone tablets by Homer wrong, or whatever the papyrus they were writing on at the time.
If Freddie Prinze Jr. was right about this, it'd be the dumbest thing you could ever do to a franchise. Then, because nothing would matter at that point. Nothing would matter. None of the movies would matter because it was all just predestined.
This is all essentially saying whatever the writer wants is fine.
Luke could have been like a 300-pound neck beard, and apparently he still would have won.
It doesn't matter because the writer said so. Therefore, it's okay.
There's no such thing as a gray Jedi.
There's no such thing as a gray Jedi. Really? No such thing. So the entire KOTOR series is just not real? Like Jolie Bindo is not a Jedi, or like he didn't exist?
I guess not.
The character he plays, just so you know, I don't know all his storyline, but he has sex, he has a family, and a child. So that would be technically a Jedi renouncing his vows. So that would be either a non-Jedi or a gray Jedi. Anything you do against
it's impossible. It doesn't exist. He's actually been unemployed this whole time.
It's strange. Yeah, people are referring to Revan. Revan's probably the most famous gray Jedi, but people consider him a Darth because they call him Darth Revan, but he's really a gray Jedi. Same thing, whether you call him a light side, dark side user. He combined both abilities. He broke from the Order to help people, and he used dark side powers to do that. A lot of the powers that Jedi use, even though they're still Jedi, are dark side. Like Luke Skywalker, he used Force Choke in Return of the Jedi on 2 guards simultaneously, which is like really awesome. But in the Legends, he also used Green Force Lightning, which was devoid of emotion. Same with this guy called Plo Koon. I was doing some research on this. Plo Koon, and he had this ability called Electric Judgment, which was also like Force Lightning, but he actually told the Jedi Masters, hey, I'm not doing this under malice. I was under complete peace. I was not implying any emotion. And he meditated on it, and they asked him, would you do this again in the future, and would you use it under emotion? And he meditated and said, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, because I did not imply emotion the first time, and I wouldn't do it the second time. So it's like there's this whole buildup about being a Jedi and what it means to be a Jedi in the Legends lore, at least, and how certain powers sort of overlap into dark side. So one of them, the famous one, is Shatterpoint by Mace Windu, because it's so powerful. And one of them is called Force Crush, which only works on organics. And it just completely destroys an organism. That's why, what's his name? General Grievous is always coughing. It's because Mace Windu used Force Crush on him and caused his insides to shatter. And obviously didn't kill him entirely. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, no, there's always, like, even Obi-Wan has an ability that is very similar to Force Crush, but it's called Force Wound, and it does almost the same thing, but he could use it on anything. But because Obi-Wan is so strong and attuned or acute to the Force, that he doesn't give in to it. He doesn't go around crushing things with his mind. So there's all these powers in the EU, in Legends, that look like they're dabbling into the dark side. And I wouldn't say that these Jedi characters were gray, but there certainly were gray Jedis. And Jolie Bindo and Darth Revan were certainly the best examples of that. So, and of course, people in the comments know more than I do. Thank you very much. You know all about Quinlan Voss. There's one. Didn't know of them. So it's. Yeah, in the movie you're right. Yeah, Freddie is right in the movies, but he was referencing things outside the movies. So until he gets his scope right, it's just like, dude, reference, proof, evidence. It's all. Give us a name, because I can give you at least 3 names of gray Jedis that exist. So
Qui-Gon even says, I turn towards the light because it's there. There's no gray. There's no gray Jedi. Qui-Gon even
Qui-Gon says, okay.
I turn towards the light because it's there.
Did he say that? I don't hear that in the movie. It must be in the EU.
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I don't remember that line at all. I mean, he's pulled so many things out of nowhere that I think he might have just done this.
There's a great chance that what he just says is false. So maybe not believe what he just said, guys. Just maybe. He could be right. I wouldn't go watching a first hour of Phantom Menace to go quote Qui-Gon. I became a Jedi because it was the light side was there. This doesn't make sense.
There's no gray. There's no that's pretend fan fiction shit, which is
fan fiction, like the books and the games that you don't like, apparently, because they are gray Jedi and all those things.
Especially the ones that are now non-canon.
The most interesting characters as far as I'm concerned, with Star Wars are in KOTOR 1 and 2, which is Jolee Bindo and Kreia. Kreia was technically a gray Jedi, even though she started off as a Jedi and went to the Darth side. She was gray pretty much most of the game, training you or teaching you. So I don't know. It's like the guy is just unaware of it, or he just doesn't care. All right, John Doe, thank you for your super chat. I find your lack of faith disturbing. Now let me tell you something about Vegeta. He may as well has brought up anything else and referenced it, because he brought up Greek mythology for the wrong reference, and we're like, Sisyphus. Darth Maul is Sisyphus. Like, thanks.
You better learn your mythology. You better learn your Greek mythology, boy, and you better learn it correctly, not the wrong way.
I don't know. It's such a strange thing. I don't know. I don't know if I could judge him on that. Just 'cause it's so like he's really passionate about it. Kind of like Vosh. He's just so passionate. He has no idea what he's saying.
Really, a lot of passion. Just not a lot of correct.
Not a lot of data and facts and evidence. Just his own interpretation, which is just 80%.
That'd be really fantastic. That'd be so fantastic if Vosh starts calling things Sisyphus.
Yeah, don't you know your Roman mythos?
A Roman mythos.
He gets like the names of like the gods of war wrong or something. It's like, okay.
You know, Mercury, the god of war, the Greek god of war, or something.
This has been so entertaining, and every sentence is like, wow. What are you talking about now?
It's cool, but don't try to canonize it because it doesn't work. And I'm never.
Don't try to canonize it, even though it's actual canon. Okay.
You know what doesn't work? Pretty much everything you just said. Your whole rant is probably most of it does not work. It does not mesh together. It is you flip the switch, it'll break down. It'll short circuit. That's what your rant was, sir.
Yeah. So we have evidence of Obi-Wan being a gray Jedi. We have Jolee Bindo. We have Kreia. We have I can't remember the name in the chat that someone referenced. There's Plo Koon, who had gray Jedi powers. Mace Windu dabbles in the dark side. You know, there's all these abilities that, whether they're Jedi or not, or break from the Order. Darth Revan, the best example, they were from the dark side, and they actually reference that in the books, saying these are dark side powers made into Jedi techniques. So, and yeah, we know the EU's gone, but that's one of the reasons why people are angry. Because they love the books. The books are much more detailed than the movies.
We're going to buy it ever. Star Wars is for fucking kids. Sorry. I'm sorry, man.
That's beautiful.
Phrasing.
Star Wars is for kids. F word.
Phrasing.
Ouch. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Star Wars franchise was not like a weird cult that wasn't made for seducing children.
Yeah. Or decapitating old men.
At least I hope not.
Yeah. Or having a bunch of comic book characters jump around on the screen and say crazy stuff and act like a comic book character. So anyway, guys, that was just brilliant. I mean, Freddie Prinze, man, gotta have more actors like this on camera with hot mic. Just let it out. Just do it, man. That was so entertaining, so bite-sized. Every sentence makes you think. Man, I can't wait to talk about that for all the right reasons. Okay, anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. That was almost under an hour and a half. That was great. Anyone interested in actual writing or actual comic book writing, check out LiteratureDevil's link in the description. He has a Indiegogo campaign going on, and if you want to support him, go right ahead. He'd be happy to chat you on Twitter or his own channel. He's very friendly, and answer all your questions about that. And
Dr. Alpha Miracle Child.
there you go. There's a title.
Available on Indiegogo.
Yes, sir. You can give whatever you like. It's open for donations. So thanks for your attention, and we'll see you in the next video.